Since 1992, 6 people have vanished from the same small corner of Auckland's west coast, on one of New Zealand's most famous beaches, Piha Beach. The authorities are convinced that misadventure or suicide are related to these missing cases. But is this true, or a darker side to this iconic stretch of coast? What is causing these bizarre disappearances in this beautiful, but isolated, part of the world? I will look at this in a future video. This episode will feature one of these missing people, Eloi Rolland. Eloi Rolland, a French adolescent, arrived in New Zealand to study in 2019. He went out, got a job, and met new people. He vanished without a trace 6 months later. Police say his destiny remains unknown a year later, and his case is expected to be sent to the coroner. Eloi Rolland's social media pages portray a regular 18-year-old enjoying the liberties that come with graduating from high school. He had a new city to discover after moving to Auckland from Montpellier, France in September 2019, to study English at Education First, an international language college. On the evening of March 6, Rolland abruptly left the property he had been sharing with a host family in Birkenhead on Auckland's North Shore. Rolland boarded a train on Platform 5 at Britomart train station in the CBD at 6:30 a.m. on March 7 with only a small backpack. It's unclear where he slept that night. Around 7:30 a.m., he got off the train at New Lynn's Fruitvale Road station. After that, he was seen strolling southbound down Fruitvale Road by surveillance cameras. Police believed Rolland may have been heading to Piha Beach, as cell phone data put him in the vicinity of Piha Road and Scenic Drive at 9:18 a.m. Rolland was due to return to France later in March, and had secured a place at the Université de Toulouse, where he planned to study engineering. Rolland's parents, Thierry and Catherine Rolland, who have been unable to travel to New Zealand due to the coronavirus pandemic, posted a renewed call for information on West Auckland's community Facebook pages. Shortly after his disappearance, his family described him as a calm, kind and curious teenager who loves adventures, as they made a plea for information. He loves the sea, surf, and catamarans. He also enjoys the beauty of the wilderness. He had never run away from home before, and to fall out of contact with family members was very out of character. Theo Caffin, a close friend of Rolland's, said,
"That wasn't expected from him."
The pair, who became friends during their second year at high school, had planned to spend the summer together.
"We loved going to the beach to practice kite surfing, bodyboarding, and surfing."
The pair's last conversation was over the phone, during which Rolland said he couldn't wait to get home and visit his former schoolmates.
"I miss him, he was my best friend and a nice guy."
Before he boarded the train, Rolland updated one of his 2 Facebook accounts' cover photos to an image of a near black rectangle at 5:46 a.m. He had also updated his profile picture on his other Facebook to a photo of him at Auckland Zoo, with a heart border, on March 5. Cell phone data placed him in the vicinity of Piha Road and Scenic Drive at 9:18 a.m. on the morning of his disappearance, on March 7. After an exhaustive land search spanning more than 1,600 hours, police suspended the physical search for Rolland in May, pending new information. A teenager's t-shirt was found in Kerker Bush, but it was not clear if it was Eloi's. Rolland's sister said in July her family was waiting for a miracle. However, after 6 months of no news, she said last week they had lost hope. While researching Piha, Aurora was alarmed to read about others who had gone missing from the area without a trace, including Irina Asher in 2004, Kim Bambas in 2017 and Sherry Vosden in 2012. Their bodies were never found. The Rolland family are hoping to get global police coordination organization Interpol involved to see if there is a link. She feared her brother may have came across dangerous people, even though he was not the kind of dude to get himself in trouble. So, what happened? Rolland spent a brief period of time working at Headquarters Bar on the Auckland Viaduct. A staff member at Headquarters Bar and Restaurant on the city's viaduct, where Rolland worked on a casual contract for a short period, said in March he had failed to show up for some of his shifts before he went missing.
"We did our best to support him, but then he just disappeared."
Headquarters owner Leo Malloy said he and his staff found Rolland required delicate management and was unstable. He added that Rolland seemed so troubled that an attempt was made to contact his next of kin for advice. However, the numbers Rolland had provided led to dead ends. We don't typically go reaching out to next of kin for nothing. There was a pattern of behavior with him to suggest he wasn't in the right space. So, what was troubling Eloi? He was not great with English, so communicating any troubles to others would have been very hard. His family says that suicide is out of the question. We are keeping an open mind as to what has happened to him. However, the chances of finding Eloi alive and well are slim due to the extended length of time he has not been seen, Detective Senior Sergeant Callum McNeil said in July. Every missing person case is treated individually on a case-by-case basis, and decisions on when to end a search involve any number of factors, including the areas being searched, any evidence located, or other lines of inquiry being exhausted. Is it just a coincidence that others have disappeared in this area, or was it a troubled young man that just wanted to disappear? So many questions are all unable to be answered. Police say Eloi speaks limited English and is described as 170 centimeters tall and thin-build. He was last seen wearing a blue and white jacket, jeans, and dark sneakers. Please leave a comment if you have an idea of what happened to this young man.
The case of Eloi Rolland is not the only missing person case in the Piha Beach region. Let's delve deeper. In small towns, the truth is frequently warped, if not lost entirely. But there is one commonality in these situations. Many people believe someone here knows something. 6 persons have gone missing from the same little piece of Auckland's west coast, on Piha Beach, one of the country's most recognized beaches, since 1992. Authorities believe it was an accident or suicide, but is this real? Or is there a darker side to this beautiful piece of coast? What is causing these strange disappearances in this lovely but remote region of the world? Experts who have lived in the area for a long time and participated in several rescues refute assertions that the disappearances are due to heavy waves in the Tasman Sea or individuals slipping off the well-marked trails along the cliffs. Piha is the most famous surf beach in New Zealand, and it is located on the west coast of the North Island, 40 kilometers from Auckland. It has a reputation for having some of the best surf in the world, which comes in from the Tasman Sea. The highest coastal peaks in New Zealand are nearby, rising up to 240 meters over the turbulent sea below. These persons have gone missing without a trace, just like Eloi. Quentin Goodwin left a note at home in May 1992, stating that he was traveling to Piha to terminate his life. But he returned home, telling the driver who had driven him from Piha that he was reconsidering his decision. He vanished 5 days later, never to be seen again. Quentin was diagnosed with manic depression, or bipolar disorder, when he was 17 years old. However, before Quentin's disappearance, he was performing well in 7th grade, studying subjects he enjoyed. He told his younger sister he was heading to the village for his after-school job at the store on May 20, 1992, and then walked out of the family house and vanished. A message was discovered in Quentin's room the next morning. "I think the text wasn't explicit," Sarah remarked. "You might view it as a suicide note, or just a really sad note." There was clearly a cry for aid, as well as a great deal of bewilderment and pain. There were sightings of Quentin over the next few years, posters all throughout New Zealand, weird phone calls from a lady claiming to be his wife saying they had a child together, but none of these leads came to fruition. Even though there was no evidence to support this, an inquest in February 2014 concluded Quentin was deceased. I think by Quentin's note, even though he returned home, he had second thoughts. I do not believe foul play was involved here. The disappearance of Irina Asher, Julia Woodhouse and her adolescent son, Henry, were driving back into Piha from Auckland around 9:30 p.m. on Sunday, October 10, 2004. They were surprised to find a young woman on the road wearing only underpants, Ugg boots, and a hoodie as they rounded a corner. Julia came to a halt and asked the woman if she needed assistance. Irina Asher, a 25-year-old training teacher and part-time model, was her name. That night, Irina Asher, who was bipolar and under the influence of drink and narcotics. Her behavior had gotten increasingly unpredictable over the previous days, according to the police inquiry. Her family was skeptical because her father and sister had just seen her the day before she vanished. However, it appears that she was suffering from a manic episode. In the previous month, she had admitted to missing and tripling up on her mood-stabilizing lithium prescriptions, and a long-term relationship had ended badly only a week earlier. Stress, according to police, could force her to relapse into unusual conduct. Irina had gone to a residence in Piha with her new boyfriend and another couple on October 10th. They later testified that she went down to the beach by herself and returned damp and chilled. She refused to change and preferred to sleep naked behind a comforter. At her desire, her boyfriend afterward left without her. Other people entered and exited the residence. Irina Asher called the cops at 9 p.m., alleging she had been drugged and was being coerced into having sex. The cops summoned a taxi for her, but it never arrived. She only wore underpants, boots, and a hoodie as she left the house. Julia drove Irina to the Black Sands Lodge, which she co-owns with Bobby Carroll on Beach Valley Road. They offered Irina a bed for the night after she took a shower, but she declined because she was wary of the couple. They didn't contact the cops, but Carroll suspected she was detoxing from recreational drugs. At least one person in the residence where she'd left ecstasy the night before had done so. Asher decided to stay the night and sleep in the lounge, which has French doors that open out onto the garden and the road leading to the Tasman Lookout, rather than calling the police. She then watched television with Henry and said she had decided to stay the night and sleep in the lounge, which has French doors that open out onto the garden and the road leading to the Tasman Lookout. Bobby and Julia fell asleep shortly after 1 p.m., and Irina exited the lodge through the French door. Carol pursued her, but all she discovered was the dressing gown she had given her to keep her warm. A couple out walking their dog near the Piha store saw Irina naked near the street lamp at 1:30 a.m. It was freezing outside, windy and stormy. The dog walkers were taken aback but did nothing to help. They witnessed Irina stoop and kiss the ground before walking towards the ocean, chatting to a street lamp. She vanished into the darkness, never to be seen again. Bobby had returned to the lodge and dialed 911, but the police investigation didn't begin until 4 a.m. It was presumed that she walked out into the ocean, but the surf and sea conditions were huge. The waves were 4 to 5 meters high and the water was bitterly cold. From what is known, I think again foul play is not involved. She had a few issues and to me was very unstable mentally. The disappearance of Sherry Vosden. Sherry Vosden, 42, was a mother of a young daughter who walked or ran the Mercer Bay Loop frequently and thoroughly. It takes about 20 minutes to complete the loop. She adored the sunsets out there, her brother Darren Roberts said. She'd return home with daisies she'd gathered along Log Race Road. Rachel Vosden, Sherry's sister-in-law, described it as her thinking spot, where she went on a daily basis. Sherry drove down Log Race RD on Saturday, December 22, 2012, and parked her car near the start of the loop circuit. At around 7:15 p.m., a couple saw her walking south down the track with a bottle of wine in hand, possibly to watch the sunset. A few hours later, her automobile was discovered unlocked, with the windows down and empty. During the following days, the police conducted an extensive search for Sherry by land, sea, and air in good weather. They assumed she had fallen into the river from the cliffs. Local surf clubs utilized inflatable rescue boats to search the shoreline from North Piha to Kerker. They were joined by a Westpac rescue helicopter. The search, however, yielded no results and was called off after a few days. The hunt was then continued by friends and relatives, but they came up empty-handed. Sherry was nowhere to be found. The visor of the passenger seat was down, and the vanity mirror had swipe marks on it, indicating that it had been cleaned lately. The coroner concluded that Vosden had hopped the barrier, walked to the cliff's edge, and then fallen to her death off the Mercer Cliffs in her suspected semi-intoxicated state. No proof of foul play or the involvement of anyone else was discovered. The sole object of interest discovered throughout the search was a shattered bottle of wine, but it could not be related to the bottle Sherry was seen with earlier. All of the circumstances led to her collapsing and being swept away by the sea, according to the coroner. The families, on the other hand, dispute this conclusion. Rachel Vosden said, "Once is a tragic accident. But when you have this many missing people who not only all look the same, but who have all disappeared in the same area without a trace. No way. This could be a tragic accident. However, so many missing people in the same area, questions do have to be asked." The disappearance of Kim Bambas. The 21-year-old nurse, Kim Bambas, was employed at Middlemore Hospital. She had resided in Auckland for 4 years and originally came from the Bay of Islands. Storm Bambas described her sister Kim as a petite woman, who was always the light of the party and quite independent. As with Sherry, Kim Bambas ran the Mercer Bay Loop on a regular basis. Kim left her Ponsonby flat on the morning of Friday, March 24, 2013, and proceeded to a Countdown supermarket on Williamson Ave to buy a few snacks. The CCTV footage at the grocery store verifies her last known appearance. Her flatmates knew she was coming to Piha to jog. Even though she hadn't returned that evening, they searched for her by driving the road from the city to the beach. That evening, they reported her as missing. After 5 hours, Sherry's bright yellow Hyundai Getz was discovered parked in the Log Race RD parking lot, at the beginning of the loop track, where her phone had been recovered previously. A ground and air search began at Log Race Road and down the Ahu Ahu track, with teams and aircraft scouring the region. As soon as 40 police and Land SAR members were committed to the effort, it was thrown off by inclement weather. Several cliff climbers scrambled over the rocks. An IRB police force with a helicopter combed the coastline, while lifeguards did the same on IRBs in the water. It took until Sunday, March 26, but there were no results, with no drones locating anything of interest. Searches along the shorelines of Kerker and Piha were organized with the locals. Kim, the runner, had disappeared, just like Sherry had, and there was no sign of her. After Kim's disappearance, according to Rachel Vosden, the sister-in-law of Sherry, "I've gone out there every year, and everything's the same as it was. You trail behind the trail. It is extremely difficult to deviate off the path because of the thick undergrowth." She suspected that something was wrong with the disappearances. "Why is there nothing floating up?" she inquired about the 2 missing women, assuming they'd fallen into the ocean. "Why are there no results?" The disappearance of Lawrence Wu. Kwan Wu, also known as Lawrence, was last seen at St. Luke's Liquor Center in Auckland at around 1:40 p.m. on March 10, before his car was discovered in the Piha area. His phone was also used there the last time he was there. He was reported missing on March 12, 2019, but the search was called off over a year later. Despite significant attempts, no information led to Lawrence's discovery, and all lines of inquiry have been exhausted, according to Auckland City Police Sergeant Tanya Kingi. The officers involved in this inquiry wanted nothing more than to be able to provide the answers that the family so desperately seeks at this time, and it is regrettable that, despite our best efforts, we have not been able to do so. Multiple searches were carried out over Piha and the wider Waitakere area, according to Kingi. The contents of his vehicle, which was discovered at Piha Beach, were also checked, including his laptop. There was no indication that the incident was suspicious, and there was no evidence of wrongdoing. Wu's whereabouts have never been discovered. Drowning, suicide, and fatal accidents have all been proposed as reasons for the disappearances of 6 young individuals from the same tiny section of Auckland's west coast. However, not everyone is convinced. Is there someone out there that knows something? Is it you?